Welcome to Blinkers Off with your hosts, Jared Welch and Aaron Halterman.
What is up? I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. It is Thursday, March 12th. This is another edition of Blinkers Off. What's up, dude?
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Kind of the calm before the storm week for sure, but we got good racing at Colonial for our little 3-week meet there. So our 3-day meet, I should say. So heating up, man. I mean, it just gets better. I feel like this trail each and every week. I don't know if we'll say that about this weekend or not, but it's here, so we'll do our best.
It's crazy. It's been really fun. And I don't know if it's been for a lack of kind of big horses running, as far as like there's certainly been good performances, but there's not like that American Pharaoh or whatever that you're just waiting to come back. And so, I mean, I think it's made it exciting. And the other thing too, is that we're starting to see more and more every week is even if they're not winning, like Chief Wallaby ran a winning race, but like these fresh horses, these inexperienced horses, like last week, you say the Tampa Bay Derby and the San Felipe, you had, Patente and the Puma win those two races. They had one win combined between the two and 3 starts total between the two, and they won. So it's and both races, whether it be Brand or Further Ado, and the other one had some experience, to definitely kind of lean on, and it wasn't enough. So that's kind of been an interesting trend this whole Derby season.
It's funny you mention it because my dad, he'll handicap the big races and stuff. And he mentioned it before the show today that we did. He's like, have you ever, can you remember, you get these Derby prep races this late in the year and nobody's ran any races hardly? I was like, I know. That's what I keep saying. You can tell he doesn't tune into my stuff because I've been saying that for 6 weeks. But yeah, no, it's wild. And I keep saying it's all going to come to a head at some point where it's like, we know if you try to ask a lightly raced horse to do too much too quick, there's injuries or they flame out or whatever. And we got a bunch of horses that are being asked to do this, and they're almost being asked to do this because it's right there. It's like with Bill Mott. It's, it's like, I'm sure he probably wishes there were like some monster horses that it's like, well, I'll just be patient with Chief Wallaby, but it's like, he can't be patient because he could win the Derby easily with him. And that goes for, like say the Puma and Patente and all these horses. So it's going to be very fascinating to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah. And, we talked a little bit about it last week's show, and obviously, with what happened last week, kind of with the Puma and the Patente, it is going to be interesting to see if, when, like you said it, like when it all comes to a head, meaning like, Further Ado has that one more race under his belt now, and then maybe he gets one more race under his belt in the next race, and then he's got the Derby, right? And so, like, will there be a convergence there where, finally you have some of these, the established, the Napoleon Solos, the Further Ados, horses that had been running last year, kind of get into their kind of peak at the right time versus like the Chief Wallabies and the Class Presidents and Patente, the Puma, like horses that are really just starting to get it. You know what I mean? So that is going to be interesting. And it makes it challenging too, because you're going to have to handicap and account for some of that. You would think, especially if you see like Further Ado, for instance, make another step forward in the next race. And you're going to say, well, I mean, do I think he can beat Chief Wallaby right now? No, but like, what if he steps up one more time? Then it makes it a little bit closer. So you're going to kind of have a little bit of a predicament in some of these races when it gets to the Derby.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when does the bubble kind of burst? Because like you said, you ask him to do too much too quick eventually, whether it's injury or just a regression that might happen because, man, he's just tired or whatever. It's going to happen. To me, it's just a matter of, okay, the let's just say the established 2-year-old class, which is the juvenile, you kind of just, that's not going to be a thing, but like Further Ado is a thing. And in Renegade and Paladin, those are, horses that they're kind of lightly raced, but they do have 2-year-old kind of foundation. What do they look like? Those 3 specifically, what do they look like in that last prep? And I think that's going to be very fascinating to see if they kind of they built up working backwards to start the year, or even really end of last year, working backwards towards the Derby. They built up in kind of the normal way that a trainer might want. Versus here's Chief Wallaby, and this wasn't really the plan, but we're here and we're doing the best. And I'm sure these trainers are doing the best they can on the fly here to get them ready. But all of them would want to be working backwards towards a target. And Napoleon Solo, throw him in there as well, as another one that might rebound. So I think that's what makes the last round of preps fascinating. It's like, okay, will the 2-year-old form kind of get into the best form possible, kind of how they planned it? I'm sure the plan was, hey, we're going to run our better races later on. Or will these other horses that are lightly raced not only beat them, but still get even better in the next round and make it to where, wow, one of them's going to win the Derby?
Do you think we'll ever, because, the way it's going, and this is probably a stretch, but like, do you think we'll see, only happened one time ever, and that was like in the 1800s, I believe, with a maiden winning the Kentucky Derby. Like, do you think that the way it's trending with horses getting fewer and fewer starts, like, let's just say, for instance, the Puma doesn't quite get there in the Tampa Bay Derby, right? And then he does, and he races one more time, gets in the Derby, has talent, and and then obviously it happens in the Derby. Like, it's not completely out of the realm the way these horses are being campaigned into the Derby. I don't know. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, the way it's going, it's very unlikely, but I could see a maiden in the next 20 years winning the Derby. Like, they get one start, one start, maiden, and they get second, and then they run straight into a stakes, run second, and then they go to the Derby and win. I can see that happening.
100%. I think it's hard to say out loud, yes, that will happen, because it is such kind of a wild concept. But, a maiden won both the Tampa Bay races this year. And both races we thought were pretty good, and maidens won them. Renegade, I know, crossed the wire first in a race, but he was a maiden. He could have ran in a maiden special weight on that same day on that same card, right? And then, of course, the Puma was a quote unquote real maiden. He had never crossed the wire first in a race. So I think if you would have told you and I 10 years ago, well, maidens will sweep the Tampa Bay Derby circuit, so to speak, I don't think we would say, I don't think so. That's crazy. Take the Puma or the Renegade, or the Renegade. Renegade is his name, for example. Like, it's not inconceivable that they could have made the Derby gate as a maiden and won. Like, I know they've won now, but yeah, like I said, what if the Puma gets another bad trip or further ado noses him out and now he's second, and then he goes to the Bluegrass or the Florida Derby, and hey, those are really good fields, and he gets second or third, and then he gets the perfect trip and things happen and he wins the Derby. Like, that's not far-fetched anymore. No.
I think I'm not sitting here saying like we're almost going to happen, but not that long ago, the idea of, the curse of Apollo was you just scratch it out, right? If that if it was just as automatic as anything, you like just forget about it. And now we don't even think about it, right? And that really wasn't that long ago. I can't imagine somebody right now being like, well, they didn't start as a 2-year-old, so we just don't do it anymore, right? No. And so it's not really inconceivable to say in 10 years from now, we're going to say, well, he's never won and he can't win the Derby. Well, shit. I mean, look at this year's field. They're all very close, right? As of right now. Yeah. If one of them hadn't won a race yet, I could see it happening.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you are right about that. And it's the curse of Apollo thing. It's weird because it's so interesting that, like you said, it really wasn't that long ago where that was a main thing. Like, that was a hard no, right? Like, I didn't race as a 2-year-old. Forget it. That's not going to happen. And even when Justify won, it was like, well, he was just insane. He also won the Triple Crown. So that's the kind of horse it takes. And then Mage won. And then you're like, well, this is stupid now. I mean, like,
yeah.
Like, just the way we train horses and the way we handle horses. The majority of these guys, there's still a few old school guys left, but the majority of these guys, the way these horses are handled, like the thing is, there's going to be, as we go down the road, like say 5 years from now, there might be 10 of the 20 horses might be, trying to beat the curse of Apollo. It's not a thing anymore. And it's training style is what it is. It's not that it got easier to do. It's just, that's just how we train them now. There's less foundation on all the horses. Listen, we're sitting here and talking about, well, Paladin, he's got a lot of foundation. Yeah, he has some 2-year-old races. He's going to have 4 races lifetime going into the Kentucky Derby. He's not that much different than Chief Wallaby, who's going to have 3 if he gets there, right? So it's even though those horses that we're viewing as, oh, they got a solid foundation under him, not really.
Yeah.
All of them are lightly raced now. There's not any more Dwayne Lucases other than Mark Cassidy, where you're going to look at the screen and go, oh, there's 7 races this horse has been in. Like it just doesn't happen hardly.
Well, and to kind of bring this home, and again, like Sinister, like I get it. Like it definitely seems inconceivable. And I'm not even going to sit here and say I think it's going to happen soon. I just am saying that the way it's trending, it crossed my mind the other day, and I'm like, yeah, I guess it's not as out like completely impossible as it felt a couple years ago.
I would be very careful to say the phrase "not a chance." Very unlikely, but not a chance.
In a horse that comes to mind, and again, it's like all this is all happened, but then they won. But think about a horse like Country House. Okay, imagine he didn't win the maiden special weight, and Bill Mott, just like a horse that you're like, yeah, maybe he decides to run him in the Risen Star, finishes second, Louisiana Derby 4th, Arkansas Derby 3rd, wins the Derby. I mean, it took a miracle, right? It took a whole thing, but it's not like it was that hard. I mean, the horse just ran a couple races to get to the race. So, and that was however many years ago. We train him even differently now, where you're not afraid to run maidens in Derby prep races. And so, I think it's got just as likely, if not more likely, chance. And yeah, he got help obviously in the Derby, but he ran a great race that day too. So it's not. I'm just saying, guys, don't be surprised if it happens in the next 10 years.
If you read trainer quotes, like Delgado's quote was like, well, the Puma was our Derby horse, and he was going to be our Derby horse no matter what, which basically meant we're doing everything we can to get him in the Derby, and we don't care about it. We debuted in the maiden, and that's it. Like, we're going right to stakes. We didn't care we lost that race. We're going right to stakes. And it's going to take a certain type of thing like that to do it, and everything's going to align. And again, I wouldn't bet yes, but I wouldn't bet no with like the most confidence in the world. I would say that.
In the eyes of like the Kevin Malone, if I gave you 10,000 to 1, you would do that, right? You would take that, right?
Yeah, right.
All right, let's get into today's show. Well, we can talk about that forever, but really down to just Virginia Derby. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Well, we're going to talk a lot about the Virginia Derby, give our picks and analysis. That's the only Kentucky Derby prep happening this weekend, as Halterman kind of mentioned. It is kind of the calm before the storm as we get. I mean, dude, we're mid-March. I mean, that's it. Like, you've got a couple of weekends of preps, and then we're not talking about who's making the Derby. We're talking about who's winning the Derby. So we'll get to the Virginia Derby this weekend, and then we're going to talk about big picture. So we'll look at a little bit what happened last weekend with Potente and the Puma, some of the horses that didn't run so well, and then look ahead a little bit for these next couple of weeks as the Derby picture starts to get just a little bit clearer. Let's go. It's hard. I mean, and not even like in a sense of racing, just in general. I don't know if everybody else feels this way, but gosh, it just feels like. I mean, I'm already like about ready to start practice for our flag football team, which is spring, and it's like, how is it already happening? I just feel like it was. I just put the Christmas tree away,
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy. All right, this weekend at Colonial Downs, the one and only time you hear Colonial Downs Derby prep previews here on Blinkers Off. That's race number 9 on Saturday at 5:10 p.m. Eastern time. It is the Virginia Derby, mile and eighth race for the 3-year-olds, 500K. And you got a field of 10 lined up here, Halterman. 50 points, though, to the winner. 50-25, 15-10-5. So say what you want about the race. So one of these horses, at least, is getting in the Derby gate. Bob Baffert brings a horse. We've seen this before. Brings a horse in here. Butane at 5-2. But it's not going to be easy because you do have a couple in here that are nice, or at least interesting. You will see if they're nice. High Camp being one of the main ones for me at 9-2. What do you think, I guess, first and foremost, of the race and Bob Baffert shipping in, Flavian Pratt shipping in, and Butane's chances?
Yeah, it's a mess of a race for sure. One note, it's snowing so hard right now at Colonial Downs, you can barely see the horses. So I don't know. I don't think it's not going to snow on Saturday, but expect maybe a track that's not the driest. I mean, literally, you could barely see them running. It's snowing so hard right now at Colonial. So keep that in mind. Yeah, for this field, it's a mess of a field. I mean, you've got horses that are kind of up and comers that have been running, in races that are a little weaker, but, maybe got some quality to them. And then you've got horses that are dropping out of tougher races, just trying to get a spot here. So, I couldn't go Butane. I didn't want to do it. I went number 5 High Camp on top in this spot. I do like him. I like that he comes from Gulfstream. I think that's where the best horses have been in this 3-year-old crop at Gulfstream, and whether it be the races right there at that track or them shipping out and winning other races like the Tampa Bay Derby, Sam F. Davis, and the Rebel, to name a few. So I think that's a good sign that he's been there. He got second on debut, got beat by a horse that had a little bit of hype, Waymark, and then second start beat Growth Equity for Chad Brown, who I think is decent enough. So 2 pretty good maiden efforts. I think he's going to stretch out to a mile and eighth pretty well. I like William Walden. I think he's a very good trainer, and I like that Velasquez is on for the 3rd straight time. So a lot of positives. I like number 5 High Camp on top.
It's very alarming because one thing is like anytime Todd Pletcher ships horses, you're like, you got to pay attention, especially here. But you look at these 2 he's got with Grittiness and Epic Desire. Not to say that either one have been ridden. I mean, I think rode Epic Desire, so is Velasquez, but like both those guys are there and neither one's on either horse, right? So kind of told me, okay, yeah, no thanks, but no thanks on those 2. They do have some form just based off of the Sam F. Davis getting, finishing 5th to the Puma and Renegade. That's Epic Desire, and Grittiness finishing 2nd. Talk to Me Jimmy finished 5th to Paladin and Renegade, but very distant finishes to those big horses. So, I mean, there's a little bit of class there with those 2, but the fact that neither jockey who are also there, it's one thing if they just aren't there and didn't ship, but that are there and are riding elsewhere was pretty alarming if you're trying to go that route.
For sure. Yeah, I'm with you on that one as well. And it's, here's the deal, though, about these horses specifically. You don't feel good about anything, I guess is the best way to say it. Like, yeah, there's good signs, but it's like, man, we could be wrong. We all could be wrong, about these horses.
Yeah.
So it's kind of pick your poison in a way. Do you want to go with that horse that's, like I said, IRAD, aboard Confessional is a good sign. Do you want to go with him after he got beat 11 in the Sam F. Davis? Incredible. Hey, he did win a grade 3. Do you want to go with him after getting beat 25? It's like,
I know.
And the answer could be yes. And that could be the right answer. It's definitely just a weird, this is a weird setup.
I honestly, last year the track was playing so fast. So it was very, very speed favoring. Obviously, we saw a lot of, front end horses winning and maybe horses that weren't very good that held on to win. Listen, I'll be the first, and anyone in the chat, I'm opening it up. You can make fun of me for this pick, but
okay.
I went with the 8 Confessional. Did not really think I would when I saw him entered. I was like, okay. But the more I looked at him, and it's like, all right, nearly is like a top fringe top 5, horse right now. The horse, he finishes second to the horse, 2 back. I don't know what happened to Sam F. Davis. He just flat didn't run whatsoever. If you go to the other 2, like, he's trending in the right direction. Again, you're asking a lot there after that last race. But one thing I did like is that Cox has added blinkers here. And this horse has some pretty decent speed. We know the horse can go long, like the way he's bred. There's no way that horse can't go long. Now, is he able to? Don't know. But we know, I believe he can go long. He gets blinkers. Hopefully it gets him engaged. And Irad's back aboard who rode him, 2 back. So I kind of think that he's just going to come out of the gate and they're going to just ride the hell out of him. Now, I don't know if it's going to be like, ride on the lead, but I think they're going to make sure that horse is engaged in the race early on. And then whatever happens, happens. But I do think Confessional, if we can get anywhere in that 4-1 ballpark, is a hell of a play in this kind of race.
I'm not going to make fun of you for it because I mean, really, your guess is as good as mine in this race. It's certainly not a situation where I can't sit here and say, well, that's impossible, because I do think it is. I looked at him for a while, dude. My biggest problem with him is I couldn't find an excuse in the Sam F. Davis. It's like, you were sitting right there with a great chance. And you go back and watch that allowance, and I realize it was nearly beating him by 5 lengths. And I like nearly, I do, but damn, it looked like he was tied to a pole, didn't it? A little bit like he just got past, and it's like, where is he? So that was my problem with Confessional. I couldn't get there. But look, like, I think what you're saying makes the most sense for him to do. Just get him out of the gate, try to put him on the lead and see what happens. That's what I would do. It's a 1-turn mile going, or 1-turn mile and an eighth. And, you got great connections. Give it a shot. I don't think it's a bad pick. I wouldn't make fun of you for it. There's a couple you could pick where I might. That's not one of them.
Because and I think you mentioned it. I think Confessional and Incredible are in the same boat in terms of, like, I would much rather have 10-1 than 4-1 on Confessional, right? Because I do think you had some, and honestly, Incredible probably a better shot because he is a graded stakes winner in the street sense. He actually looked good. The Holy Bull, like, there are excuses to be had. The layoff, whatever reason, and you mentioned it in the preview to this race. Like, it's almost sometimes better when you have, like, you'd rather see a horse beaten 25 finishing 6th versus 3rd beaten 6 or something, where it's like, what, it just clearly he wasn't good enough. He kind of ran decent and just never was going to get there. Incredible never picked up his feet. So there is reason to think that he could rebound. Riley Mott apparently thinks that the track will play a little bit better for him here. That's always kind of an excuse for a trainer whenever they don't run well. Ship to another track and think the surface is better at that other track. But that's what he said. And, but to be very clear, I do like High Camp a lot too. So I like your pick. That's a horse I will be using everywhere. We tried to claim him this week as well. I think he's got a big shot coming into the race. And I'm with you as well on Butane. I think, until further notice, we're just going to have to, I don't know what the stats are across the country, but it feels like Bob Baffert, and I'm probably wrong, but I feel like Bob Baffert has not won a Derby Prep this season as a favorite. That might be wrong, but it's got to be few and far between, because it feels like the ones he is winning are the second choices and the third choices or whatever. So Butane shipping in, it's kind of like litmus test. It's kind of like brand. It's kind, I'm just like, I'm not really, like, prove me wrong. I'm until proven otherwise, I can't take a short price on Bob Baffert because they're just not hitting like they used to whenever they would ship.
Yeah, he won 2 races, but they were both in California, and they're with his other quote unquote other horses. You're right. Yeah, look, I think the difference with Butane is he has shipped once before and he ran okay. Like, that was an okay 3rd in the South. Well, it wasn't great for sure, but it's okay. And this is an easy spot, right? But I'm with you. I just don't have a lot of interest in playing this horse on top. I just don't. And look, we're not gonna get into the whole Baffert thing, but you do have to treat him a little bit differently than we used to, right? So, yeah, that's what I'll say about that. And I just, at a short price, no thanks. That's just how I feel about it. Incredible. He reminds me of East Avenue last year, who ran first. I believe that was the Risen Star he ran in. It was either the Risen Star or the LeCompte. They sent East Avenue, and he ran horrific, just like Incredible did in the Holy Bull. East Avenue did come back to run pretty well in the Bluegrass. He got second, and he never really lived up to the hype, but he did run better in that second start. So I'm thinking Incredible could do that. I think it's a good spot because he needed a little bit of a drop in class, no matter what, in my opinion, and he's getting it. And yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. I know 1,000% for sure. He's not as bad as the Holy Bull, because there's hardly any horses that are that bad, right? I mean, that's a claiming type of performance. He's not that horse. He's much better than that. And again, I mean, not to knock your pick, but Confessional, I'm not sure what he is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, the Sam F. Davis could have been him. I'm not sure. Where I know the Holy Bull wasn't, right? So
exactly.
That's why I kind of favored the 7 over the 8. But look, I'm not. The other side of it is you go back and watch the Maiden by Confessional. It's good. It's really good. It's just the other 2 races haven't been.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, people kind of forget, at least some, I don't, because we had the horse, we drafted the horse, but
right.
His maiden special is so impressive that, like, he went in as a very heavy favorite that day, the Gulfstream. Now, Nearly was bet too, don't get me wrong, but he was certainly the one bet harder between the 2 horses, and Nearly went right by him, and it was like, oh, wrong horse. So to your point, like, yeah, Keeneland, he looked incredible. Like, he looked like that's a Brad Cox Derby horse right there. So certainly bred well. Now, not a huge purchase price, which sometimes you see a lot higher, but such a quality horses. But maybe the Tappet, that the Tappet side of things is just he's a little quirky. Maybe he's still trying to figure it out. Obviously Brad hasn't shied away from running him, although shipping him here is not necessarily the best sign. And that kind of goes to, like, Bob Baffert brought Getaway Car here last year, and he was a dog. And it's like, I just feel like, like, there is something to be said about horses that ship in here that are, quote unquote, by like prominent horses, prominent trainers, whatever. It's like, if he was good, he'd be running at Santa Anita. If he was good, he'd be shipping him to Arkansas or whatever. You know what I mean? But the fact that he's shipping him here, yes, it's easier. Don't get me wrong. But it's also kind of a sign that he's kind of like, whatever.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, this is a Baffert 3rd stringer, and this is a Cox 4th stringer. I would probably describe him. I don't know. Wouldn't you agree? Confessional is not 3rd string even at this point.
Yeah, at this point, yeah, shit.
But the way I look at it, and why I kind of would rather have. It's hard to say, but I think to win, like I don't know what the odds are going to be, but if Confessional floats up, I think I'd rather try to play him than Butane. And I think Butane will run his race. I just think somebody will beat him, or a couple of horses will beat him. I just don't think he's that good. But yeah, look, can the Bob Baffert 3rd string, the Brad Cox 4th string beat some of these other guys' 1st string horses? I guess Todd Pletcher's got like his 10th string there with Grittiness. I mean, he's just has been horrible. But listen, can these 4th, 3rd, 4th, 10th stringers beat the big dogs, or not the big dogs in the barn for these littler barns like Incredible, like High Camp, like Lock, Stock, and Pharaoh? I don't know.
I do think that's a fair assessment. Like, if you like said, like, between, say, the main shooters, like, let's say between Butane, High Camp, Incredible, and Confessional, like, Butane to me is probably the one that you're like, he's gonna run okay, right? Because that's he kind of does every time. Just don't necessarily think he's going to be able to win, and so it's depend on one of those horses stepping up. We haven't really talked about the 6 too much here. Lock, Stock, and Pharaoh. That's American Pharaoh, obviously. Sire. This is a horse that's only been on synthetic, and I think we'll have a say in the race just from a pace standpoint as well. But it is interesting, don't you think, that we're a week away from the Jeff Ruby, which wouldn't that have made all the sense in the world?
Yeah, it's really weird.
They're here.
2 starts over the synthetic there at Turfway, and that last one was just a dominant win. And you're like, well, Jeff Ruby coming up. It's 100 points if you win the Jeff Ruby.
Yeah, what is that about?
I don't know. Is
he going to scratch? Like, did they?
Nick Severs told me it's 50-50 runs. And I said, well, where did you see it? He said, I got my sources. I don't know what that means, but, I haven't seen it anywhere that he's 50-50 to run. It could be somewhere I missed. That's for sure. But I don't know. I think he's a nice horse. I definitely, one of the first races I went back and watched was the race, the last one, the synthetic race there at Turfway going on in the allowance. And God, I watched that and thought, I don't know why he's switching surfaces. He looks pretty good on that one. So I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe they just say, look, let's try him on the dirt so we can get that out of the way. Well, you know what, one way or the other, like he runs great and he wins, well, fine. And if not, well, we'll go back to doing whatever. I don't know. It's an odd thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a trainer, but I feel like if that was me, I'd almost really like, let's get our points first. And then maybe we'll try one more race, maybe like a prep, the Arkansas Derby or whatever. And then just see if he likes the dirt. But, getting if they are convinced he's going to run well on the dirt, and I mean, it's certainly just as easy as a spot as what that race would be, if not easier. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see. But he is talented. Clearly, he's undefeated. He's really not gotten close to losing. Should run well at this distance, you would think. So, an interesting one here as well. I especially think the pace. If they run similar to like the last time he was on the lead. Again, though, you just never know with these horses on the surface change. So he did come off of the pace the first on the debut. Of course, that was a sprint, but they were going pretty quick, and he was off of it and won. And then the second time, he kind of landed on the lead, and it was a slower pace and went gate to wire. So I don't know, an interesting one for sure. All right, I got the 8 confessional. You're going with the 5 high camp, but the bigger picture here is it is a 50-point race, so you win, you're in. Second place, maybe. If you're Butane, you get second, you're probably in, which that'd be kind of a bummer, honestly, if Butane got in the race. But point being, anything here that's exciting to you for Derby?
No, I mean, going into it, no. You can always be surprised by something, that jumps up. But no, I mean, it's hard. But look, say confessional finally kind of gets back to where we think you should be. Say incredible rebounds and looks like you did in the street sense. I don't know. Say Butane just gets a little better or whatever. High camp comes. I mean, there could be one, like the winner of this race. We might think about it, but overall, no.
Yeah. It was was it American Promise? That was his name last year that won the Lucas horse.
Yep.
Yeah. It was, I mean, doesn't surprise you that Lucas sent him everywhere, but.
So, yeah, and what happened was, if you remember, the track. Now, I don't think the track's going to be playing all that fast this year, based on the weather I've seen so far. But the track was playing like just super, super fast, and he ran 1 1/8 miles faster than anybody else that ran it. I'm not talking about across the country, right? And it's also a 1-turn 1 1/8 miles, which has a big factor on the time as well. So. I can't tell you how many people were supporting American Promise because his time was faster.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to stress, and I've been stressing every show I'm on, please do not do this. And if your handicapping situation is to compare different tracks, times from different tracks, please stop. Please, please, please stop. We have one YouTube commenter who I think is very intelligent, but his main thing he always goes back to is different times on different tracks. And I comment every time. I don't think he ever reads it. Please stop doing this. Like, just delete those thoughts when you have them, because you can't do that. So don't do it this year.
Well, do you remember last year, after, to your point, he didn't run a race after the Virginia Derby.
Yeah.
And American Promise was like,
oh, dude.
I mean, 12-1 or something crazy in the Derby. Like, was
so much money.
Bet so hard. And the horse, I believe, just finished. Like, just the other day, finished the wire. Like, I think he finished like 18th or something. Like,
dude, do you remember we went back to the Lucas barn, and that horse was supposed to run in like the Lexington, I think. And we were talking to Bass, and I don't mind saying this now because I don't think either one of them would care. And we were like, yeah, so American Promise to the Lexington. And he gave us a look like there's no way that horse can run in the Lexington. He's like, no, we're gonna reevaluate things. He goes, well, and then he was like, I don't want to say too much, but I think we'll go straight to the Derby.
we got our ticket. We're just gonna get there before anybody questions it.
Yeah. Well, and it's like even you talk to them and it's like, yeah, we know he's not very good. You know what I mean? It's just like, well, all these people on my YouTube comments saying he's run 2 seconds faster than all these other horses and he's going to win. So
it's just crazy that he got bet so hard last year. Just insane.
It was insane. Yes. And it never changed. Like he was low odds early and it held that way. And again, like this is why, like, you could hate on buyer speed figures or any speed figure. You can hate them all you want, but that's why we have them. There are people that follow those circuits and know the speed of the track and how it's playing, and then they adjust those numbers to equate for the fact that, look, if you run a minute 9 flat going 6 furlongs at Colonial, it's not the same. You go to Oaklawn, you're probably those same horses are going to run it in a minute 12 or Gulfstream.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, that's why you have speed figures, because each track plays wildly different. Like you go up to Emerald Downs in the summer and their $5,000 claimers are running 109 and change going 6 furlongs sometimes. And it's like, yeah, but if they went to Santa Anita, they'd be running 112s. Like, it's just, the track is super fast here. So you got to stop doing that if you're somebody that does that. And I'm not even making fun of you. I'm trying to help. Don't compare times, different tracks. It does not work.
Yeah. One thing that Halterman always does, and I'll say it for you, is that the one thing you can't, and again, it's still not a perfect science. Like, take, for example, last week when it started raining before the Tampa Bay Derby, and then that, of course, threw off the track as any comparison. But like, say there's a 1/8 race earlier on the card, what doesn't matter, girls, boys, older, whatever, at least gives you some compare. Like, say if they like, hey, that race looked pretty good, they ran it in whatever, and then it's like, oh, this race was comparable, like that was pretty, but that's the only time you can actually look at the comparison. It at least takes something from it. But even at the same track on Friday, Saturday, is you can't, different days, because the way they make the track or whatever, you just can't do it.
Mm-mm. No, and it's last week, to talk about last week for just a second, because we're talking about numbers. The people who make the buyers and the people who make any number, I just always use buyers because it's the most common. They had an impossible task, because there were 2 races ran at 1 1/16, and one was Disruptor beating Disco Time, and I think they ran 141 and change. But that track was fast and dry, and then it poured rain for like 10, 15 minutes, but right before the Tampa Bay Derby. So it clearly made a difference of the track. But how big of a difference? You have no idea, because there's no data point that you could reference. So it was a total guess. You could make the Disruptor buyer pretty easily, because you could kind of compare it. They will compare day to day when there hasn't been a lot of weather, and you could kind of get the number. But they had to totally guess on the Tampa Bay Derby, and it made for a real. That's why you saw a 95 figure, and then it was an 89 figure, because they're really. And look, a lot of people are very critical of all these people that make all these numbers. They're doing their best, but at the end of the day, those are just total guesses at that point.
Yeah, but and also to bring it home, I guess, and wrap it up, you gotta sometimes just use your eyes. And just look at it and be like, like, that's probably not, that it, like, you can just kind of have a feeling like you watched the Florida Derby, or the Fountain of Youth, and you're like, yeah, that was pretty damn good. Like, that's going to get a good number. I didn't even look at the time. I can just tell you that's going to get a solid number. And then there's other times where you're like, yeah, super fun race. Like Potente, you're like, yeah, that was a great race and it was awesome. But you're like, upside, sure, that race, that's just okay. So it's like, use your head, use your eyes. Don't, even if the number comes back better than you thought, don't forget that you thought, hey, that race didn't feel like it was a 98 or whatever,
Right.
So use your brain a little bit. And to finalize it, I am 1,000,000% sure at this point that you can just basically toss any West Coast numbers. I feel like those are so inflated at this point that a Bob Baffert horse will get a 98 buyer when it probably should have gotten an 88 buyer or something. They're always so much higher than they should be.
Yeah.
I mean, at least not last weekend, anyways.
Well, maybe still last weekend, right?
Hey, that could be true.
Honestly, it does. I would say, and I have no thing to back me up. This is just me talking and kind of agreeing with what you're saying. Especially the last 3 or 4 years, I lean more towards what Sinister just said. That West Coast stuff just feels a little bit, until they go somewhere else and do something. I really don't take it all that seriously. And look, there are several horses that you could probably point to, and maybe not several, but a couple, and say, well, you were wrong here, here, and here. Yeah, maybe, but just overall, Del Mar, not as much. I think it's still really strong, but man, this Santa Anita meet, it's like, who are these Bob Baffert horses even running against? There's nobody out there. There's nothing. And I don't think his stable is very strong either. So you watch these races, is like, this is just not great.
Yeah. And I think someone's going to hear what we just said and be like, well, look at last year in journalism. He obviously was very good, but you could watch him race and be like, he's good. Like, you knew he was good. You didn't need to see a number. Like, you just watched him and you're like, yeah, he's very good. And he was continued to be very good so to me, it's when you have those races where you're like, I thought it was okay. It's like, if you look at last week and say, he got a 95 buyer, or maybe, you're like, I don't know. I just didn't really like that,
Well, journalism and Baeza were two horses that definitely buck what we're talking about, right? And like I just said, I mean, you're going to be able to point to horses and go, well, you guys are wrong. Well, true, journalism, but also, like you just said, anybody could watch journalism and know that he was pretty damn good. Yeah. And he didn't have just wins at Santa Anita. Like, he was winning in other places before they got there as well. He won the Los Alpha Charity, whatever. But anyway, journalism certainly, and Baeza, but boy, like, after that, it just gets a little light to me, and I mean, anyway.
I mean, here, I'll put it like, it's a small sample size. It's a very small sample size, but you look at a horse like it's in the race in the Virginia Derby, Butane, who ran an 82 in the Hopeful, ran a 92 in the San Vicente, and then went to the Southwest and ran an 82. I mean, I know that's a very small sample, and that's, apples and oranges a little bit, but kind of sums it up. It's like the horse ran a 90, would been running low 90 at Santa Anita, and then goes to the Southwest and gets curb stomped and runs an 82. So it's like, and that's been right in line with where he had been running at Del Mar and Saratoga. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's just kind of an example.
And look, some of it's a cycle, so it's a cycle, right? And sometimes what we're saying is not always the case. It just feels like over the last 5 years, as a whole, and again, you could go point, and what about this horse? Sure. But as a whole, that West Coast circuit, it's kind of just its own thing.
I agree. Yeah. All right. That's enough of that. But for the Virginia Derby, we'll see how that track plays on Saturday. But I'm going to go with the 8 Confessional, Brad Cox, Irad Ortiz, giving him another shot. Halterman's going to take the 5 High Camp, John Velasquez and Walden, to pull off mild upset over Butane, who I imagine will be bet pretty hard in the Virginia Derby. Good luck.
All right. Looking at it now. Santa Anita Derby winners. So journalism, obviously good. Stronghold. I mean, whatever. Practical Move. He was okay for sure. Taba, well, that was a flop. Rock Your World was a flop. Honor AP, I mean, he didn't live up to the hype. Roadster, I mean, it's been a lot of hit and miss.
Yeah, that's.
Of course, then you have Justify of 18. That,
Yeah, I mean, do you think there's any reason or truth behind the idea of sometimes when Bob Baffert will ship out his best ones because he kind of wants to get like a gauge for them kind of outside of California?
Yeah, it feels like he used to do that a lot more than he does now, though. I feel like used to, like some first teamers would come to Oakland. I haven't seen that in a while. It feels
No.
like,
I know.
like, yeah, I'll have geez, I'm looking at these winners. Saw I'll have another's name, but not him. American Pharaoh first teamer. He came to Oakland. You don't see that as much anymore.
No, and kind of a lack of, I feel like a little bit of lack of Bob Baffert having a clear first teamer anymore. It feels like, they're kind of trying to figure out, and he's trying to figure out even the table one. It wasn't, he was suspended at that point, and there was, Medina Spirit before that was not supposed to win necessarily, and so there, just I don't know. It doesn't feel like we've had the American Pharaoh type horse, in a long time. So maybe that's why too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. He did send Muth to Arkansas, and I think he was a pretty good horse that just got hurt, and that was it. But he did send him. I thought that was the first stringer that year for him, but yeah, it hasn't. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
All right, guys, we are almost 50 days away, which is insane, from the Kentucky Derby. I believe the website says 51 days, 4 hours left until the Kentucky Derby, which is insane. Getting, less than 2 months now. And what we're going to do here is, you can see it on the screen if you're watching it live. We do have our top 10. This is a consensus of Halterman and I's top 10, so I'll explain a little bit further about that. But I just kind of have something up on the screen that we can talk as we kind of go through some of the Derby updates and what's going on. First and foremost, we'll start at last weekend and some of the racing action with the San Felipe and the Tampa Bay Derby. We'll start with the Tampa Bay Derby. The Puma both, cracks the list here for both you and I at number 8. I think right after the race, we both were like, yeah, that's top 10 performance. Further Ado, who finished second, also is still in the top 10 and I think has upside. So what do you think of the Puma and Further Ado? I guess let's add Canaletto too, because Canaletto did not make the top 10, but maybe cusp or would have if he would have won, obviously.
The Puma and Further Ado, I ranked them number 8 and number 9 on my poll, so we're pretty close there on the consensus. I really liked the Puma, racing wide and still being able to win. I thought that was very good. So a very, very solid performance, and a horse that should move forward off of that race. Same with Further Ado. I think he'll move forward off of it. Kind of pause I know his first start of the year. I just man, as wide as the Puma was, I kind of feel like Further Ado, if he was a really serious horse, he probably still should have won that race. But look, he's going to improve off of it. I think the Puma is too. I like them both going forward, just, in 8 or 9 spots, right? Not in the top 5. Yeah, Canaletto's kind of interesting to me. I think he learned a lot. I think he got bumped around a lot, and I think that'll help him moving forward. I heard they're going to go Lexington to Preakness. I think that's a really, really good idea with him.
That's a great idea.
Yep. So I don't know. I expect him to come out of it pretty well. I think Canaletto will run pretty well next out.
That creates a little bit of a dilemma too for anybody that's trying to get to the Lexington, because that horse should be pretty good in that race.
Yeah.
I would think. I mean, I think I had the Puma like 9th or something. Or no, Further Ado, I put 10, and the Puma I put 9, and then I put Potente 8. We'll go to Potente now. You had him 10, so that's where he landed at 9.
Yeah.
I didn't want, I don't really want anything in the race other than him. I thought the race was average, but I love the fact that it was only a second start and he did that. And I feel like he was just starting to get going late in that race. And then the gallop out was insane. Like, this is a horse that I know is not going to be distance limited. So the longer, the better for him. And I feel like he's still kind of getting it figured out. I think he's a little bit like Taba in a sense that was very young getting to the race. All of the difference is he's got Bob Baffert here versus, the debacle that was that year. So I do think he's still got upside, but I also think you could look at it 2 different ways. He's got upside, but I also think he still needs to improve a lot too.
Well, he made a tremendous improvement race 1 to race 2. That's number 1. And I still wasn't like just wowed by him, but he did improve quite a bit.
Which you and I both said, like, neither one of us picked him, but we both were like, we do expect him to improve greatly here. And if we were going to pick a Baffert, it would be Potente, not Brandt.
100%. I did not like Brandt in that race. And look, Potente, I do think I think he should improve again when they go a mile and an eighth. I think he's got a race there, the San Antonio Derby, that doesn't look all that strong, and he can win it. I don't know if he's just a grinded out type of horse or if he's still learning exactly what to do. But Robusta was about to fall down. He was so tired, and it still took Potente a long time to pass him. So much so that I was like, I don't know that he's going to get by him. But he did get by him. So give him credit. And again, I don't know if he's trying to figure it out or he doesn't have that extra gear or what. I don't want to be overly negative. I will totally say that the gallop out was extremely overrated because every horse in that race other than Potente was ready to be back at the barn. They were done. And so I think, yes, Potente galloped out nicely, but I think if there was another horse that even wanted to run one step past the wire, he wouldn't have galloped out that far ahead. So I do think that aspect of it is getting completely overblown. But what I like about him is he did take a big step from race 1 to race 2. And I don't know that he's going to take that big a step again, but if he can just take another mild step, he's actually right there. So if he takes another step and runs a mile and an eighth and improves again, who's to say he's not in it with a chance? I actually think he is. Now, the flip side of it is, what's he going to face and what are we going to say about it, in the San Antonio Derby when they draw it and stuff like that? I don't know, but I like that he's making normal logical progressions in his races so far. And I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, he runs he runs 20 miles per hour the whole way around the track. Like he just is like, he never gets, it doesn't feel like he's got that extra burst. And he also never really feels like he's backing up. He just kind of runs, the same way around. And he's a big, good looking horse. Obviously, like I said, bred to go long. So maybe that will benefit him. But at the same time, if you get a horse that it's a little faster than him late, and I don't know, again, he's only second start. So there's got to be so much more upside to go. But and the issue too is, what's his biggest threat in the San Antonio Derby is, Cherokee Nation. I don't know. There's not a lot that's going to be going there that even if he does win again in a similar fashion or whatever, you're still going to get to the Derby wondering what he really is,
Yeah, for sure. And again, I think, like to your point, say journalism was in that race. Well, I mean,
journalism's going to go get him.
Yeah. But again, he's not, you know what I mean? So you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, like a good horse would have beat him. But he's ran 2 races and I'm like, that really wasn't that good, but he won them both, so just keep on improving. You made a good point. He is a tank. Like, he's a big horse. And so sometimes those horses with that kind of size, it takes a while to kind of, grow out of that gangliousness and just kind of fill out and improve. So I think he's got every right to improve again in his next start.
I'll run through the top 10 that we have listed. Again, this is a consensus. I think that the clear consensus of you and I is 1 and 2. We both have that same exact order, with Commandment at 1, Chief Wallaby at 2. And I'll even go further and say that we both kind of think the same about who we think's better between the two, and that being Chief Wallaby. But just based off of performances so far, you obviously got the head-to-head. You got to put Commandment 1, Paladin 3. Overall, you had him 3rd, I had him 5th. Class President, that's where we kind of differed a little bit. You had him 6, I've got him 3, so he fell at 4 there. And Nearly at number 5, that's right in the middle of you and I had him 6, you had him 4. Silent Tactic, again, another horse that we differed a little bit at 6. I had him 4, and you had him 7. And Renegade, kind of similar, 7 and 5 for us. So those are the other ones that are on the list. And what's interesting about our whole top 10, though, is, Silent Tactic and, maybe Paladin and Commandment are like the only 2 or 3 that you're like, yeah, they have like that depth to them, and I mean depth very lightly because no one really has a ton of it, but at least like established stakes running well, consecutive times, that kind of thing. All these other ones are just like class president could be number 1 in a month, or he could be off the top 10 in a month, and that goes for a lot of these horses. It's still, even though we're so close to being done with these preps, there's still so much to learn.
Yeah, I think as we go into the final round, and again, the Virginia Derby is what it is. I'm not overly concerned about it, but when I say the final round of preps, I'm talking about the 21st, the 28th, and then on into the first weekend in April. That's when we're really going to learn the most. But I think out of this, what we've seen so far, that I like the Fountain of Youth better than any other race. And so I think Chief Wallaby and Commandment have stamped themselves as the true leaders. And then honestly, like I think when you get to 3 through, let's just say 3 through 10, I think they're interchangeable, but I also think some of these 3 through 10s are going to jump up and be a problem. I think Paladin could definitely run a big race in the Bluegrass. Yep. I am fascinated with the Florida Derby and what Nearly does. People are forgetting about Nearly completely because they haven't seen him in so long, but I'm not forgetting about him. But here's the deal. Commandment, Chief Wallaby, and Nearly in the Florida Derby, we're going to learn a whole hell of a lot out of that race. And we're going to know, right, okay, which one of these might just be a pretender, or all 3 of them, can they be contenders? So that's going to be very interesting. Renegade's going to the Arkansas Derby. And again, he's going to match up against Silent Tactic. We have a really good idea there when we see those 2 horses run against each other. We're not sure on class president. I don't know. Might be the Wood, might be the Bluegrass. That's going to be very interesting to see where he runs. So yeah. And then the Puma and Further Ado, I think, are going to go face Paladin up there in the Bluegrass. So, we're going to like these horses. They're going to do their best to avoid each other, but a lot of these horses are going to clash. And in some cases, 3 of them in the same race. And so when we're talking about a Derby trail that, boy, they're lightly raced and this and that, and we don't have a lot of form to go off of, boy, oh boy, we're going to get some clashes before we even get to the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we fast forward a little bit here to the not next, or I guess to next week, and with the Louisiana Derby, and obviously Paladin going to go to the Bluegrass, but we have another horse in emerging market that could be the next Chief Wallaby and class president, the Puma, Potente, those horses that are very lightly raced, that could make him name for himself, who obviously it didn't bode well for him, how poorly Power Shift ran in the Tampa Bay Derby, but you got to assume that emerging market will run well here. And, so that is another name that we could add to the mix after next weekend. And I think it is so, he's one of them, obviously, but there's, Chief Wallaby and class president. I put those 2 together, not necessarily on what I think of them, but just kind of how big those next races are for them, because I know class president won and Chief Wallaby didn't, but they both ran really good races off of those very kind of lightly kind of season and getting into it. And what can they do to back up that performance? That's going to be so important, because if class president kind of bounces a little, or Chief Wallaby can't quite get there again, or whatever, you're going to go from like I said, you're going to go from like, I think Chief Wallaby is the Derby winner, to be like, damn, man, I don't know, like, so those are just very, very critical races where a horse like Commandment, even if he runs second, you're like, listen, he's solid. I know what he is. I still can, you know what I mean? Like these horses, even Paladin for that instance, he runs second. you're like, yeah, he can still win the Derby. But some of these other ones, they need like these last preps are just so critical.
Yeah, not to mention, not Paladin or people that ran in the Risen Star because, that was a mile and eighth race, but most of the horses everywhere else that didn't run there in that mile and an eighth event there in Louisiana, they're going a mile and an eighth for the first time as well. Right. Yeah. And so that's another separator. And so that's what makes it really, really exciting. So yeah, I mean, it is so fascinating. And, you talk about the Louisiana Derby, and I have no idea who I'm going to pick in Louisiana Derby, and that'll be next week. But what if Emerging Market shows up there and runs really, really well?
Yeah.
Then what? Then do you go, well, what the hell do we do with him? He's got 2 races, and he just can't. He just won that race, and say he runs really well. It's like, what do we do with him now? Is he a player for the Derby? Is it just no way he can do it off 2 races? I don't know,
dude. I don't know. That will be. It's got to be too light. But I guess now we just had that conversation earlier.
Yeah.
Next weekend's going to be awesome because, or I guess 2 weekends. I shouldn't say. The 28th, the last weekend of the month, because. I mean, you just look at these horses that are running in the Florida, at least pointing to the Florida Derby or Arkansas Derby. And just think the Nearly versus Chief Wallaby versus Commandment. Okay. There's some answers right there. Yeah. Not to mention if the Puma does decide, I don't know, he's possible for that. I don't know if they're going to run him back to that race, but I doubt it, but he's in it, or is he possible? And then the Arkansas Derby, Silent Tactic. He's, can he run in one of his big races again versus Renegade? So he couldn't handle Class President. Can he handle Renegade in the race? Litmus test back at it again. So I think with Silent Tactic, that's just such a big race for him. And even Renegade, I mean, coming into the Arkansas Derby, it's not going to be easy to face Silent Tactic. We know what he is. So yeah, those 2 races are going to there's so many answers that we got coming.
So this is the other fascinating thing. So Sinister said Nearly going to win the Florida Derby. So if Nearly wins the Florida Derby, he's the number 1 horse. I'll go ahead and I'm 99% sure whoever wins that race, I'm probably going to be my Derby pick, but maybe not. So I'll say 99. If Nearly runs 4th in the Florida Derby, which would mean he would, let's say Commandment, Chief Wallaby, and somebody else, Nearly's not even in the Kentucky Derby. That's what makes those races awesome, right?
Yeah.
And you could probably say the same thing about Chief Wallaby, because if truth be told, Mott probably wouldn't be the worst thing and say, you know what, we'll just skip the Derby. If Chief Wallaby runs 4th, he goes from the horse that I have number 1 to the horse that's not in the Kentucky Derby. And that's why the Florida Derby is amazing. And there's other races are going to be as well, but that's when you do the lightly raced thing, these are the situations you run into. When you do we're going to run in January and then not run again until late March, the last round, like they did with Nearly, this is the situation you run into. A lot of pressure to run really well or you're out.
No, and the reality is, and again, these are our opinions, so everyone can have their opinions going into these races. My opinion is that I'm not at all convinced on any of these Florida Derby horses, whether it be Nearly, Chief Wallaby, or Commandment. I'm not. I like them all, but I also am not convinced on any of them winning the Derby. So it's
fair,
and like I think Chief Wallaby is the horse that's got the most talent of those 3. I think, but we don't know, right? We need to see it. We need to get him. You get to see him race, and so I think that race is going to be critical to, at the very least, picking the top, or either the top choice of the Kentucky Derby or one of the top 2 choices of the Kentucky Derby, I would think.
Well, I would say this. I think if whoever it is, Nearly, Chief Wallaby, Commandment, again, that's a decision for a different day. I'm not worried about that right now as far as who's going to win that race. But if you wanted the easiest kind of Derby handicapping, let's say, as far as a winner goes, the Derby is a monster underneath. We know that too, right? And we also know backup tickets, stuff like that, because it's a 20-horse field and the best horse doesn't always win. A lot of times they don't, but I digress. To make it your easiest decision, what you want out of the Florida Derby, is about a 102 buyer and one of those 3 horses to win by a length.
Yeah.
Because that will stamp themselves as the horse to beat. If that doesn't happen, then it becomes very wide open.
Yeah, and let's not forget, not all that long ago, as in last year, the Kentucky Derby winner, the could have been Triple Crown winner, Sovereignty lost.
Yeah.
And we all
couldn't have looked worse.
And we're like, what has happened? You know, what, you know, like, what do you mean? And then the horse that beat him is scratched from the race at the Derby. And now all of a sudden Sovereignty kind of grows on you a little bit more. And so the point is like, there are 3 really good horses in that race, meaning Commandment, Chief Wallaby, and Nearly. And one of them, I mean, of those 3, 2 of them are going to lose, right? At least. Maybe all 3 of them do.
I truly believe the Florida Derby was Sovereignty's worst race of his entire career. I truly believe that. So, and you could argue with it, and that's fine. I don't really care. I'm not going to argue back with you, but I truly believe Sovereignty ran one of the worst races, if not the worst race of his career, the race before the Kentucky Derby.
And then he looked incredible in the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's the point I guess I'm trying to make is while yes, there will be something to learn here, and the winner obviously will be a very important horse into the Kentucky Derby. Those are 3 good horses, and like I said, only one of them could possibly win, and doesn't necessarily mean that horse has no chance that they lose has no chance to win the Kentucky Derby.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it a year ago. So, yeah. Which race would you say? I think I know the answer. You kind of said it with the Florida Derby. Out of all, say out of the main ones left, right, the big ones, is that the race that you're like, you're most anticipating, the one you want to like sit down, take notes on because you want to study or is it the Bluegrass because you like Paladin and which race are you kind of itching to see, or maybe even horse that might be in that race that you're like, I really need to see that one more race?
Okay, let's do this. Very important, or just important, or or I don't care at all. Let's rank them like that. The Louisiana Derby, honestly, it's kind of a for me.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
They've done this weird thing at Fairgrounds where the Risen Star is becoming their race, and then the Louisiana Derby.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's just not. It doesn't. So anyway, I'm not real. The Jeff Ruby, same way. Whatever. Florida Derby, very important.
Very.
Arkansas Derby, very important. I think those 2 are big. And Bluegrass, very important. Wood, Santa Ana Derby, kind of in the middle, because I am very curious to see does Cherokee Nation. Can he do that again? I don't know. That's interesting. Potente, can he get he's in the middle, or that one's in the middle for me. But the Wood, I don't care about. And then so Bluegrass, Santa Ana Derby, or excuse me, Bluegrass, Florida Derby, and Arkansas Derby. I think those are the 3.
Yeah, and I would say to your point, like if I kind of further it down, like I don't think that the favorite of the Derby can come out of the Louisiana Derby. I don't think that the favorite of the Derby can come out of the Wood. I do definitely think the favorite. Honestly, I don't know that the favorite of the Arkansas Derby. I don't think the favorite could come out of the Arkansas Derby either. Although I do agree it's an important race. I'm not sure, say Renegade or Silent Tactic would do enough to win to be the favorite of the Kentucky Derby.
May not be the favorite, but I'm telling you that Renegade ran a kind of a. You go back and watch that Sam F. Davis Lamore Renegade ran pretty damn awesome. So I think if he could go up there and beat Silent Tactic and beat Litmus Test, I know he's not great, but still it's something. I don't know. I think I don't know the favorite, but I think he could be second, third choice.
Yeah, that's fair. I definitely think the favorite of the Derby will come out of the Florida Derby or the Bluegrass.
Yeah, I think it's coming out of the Florida Derby, unless the Florida Derby underwhelms, and I think it's coming out of the Bluegrass. It's probably most likely favorite out of the Florida Derby, second choice out of the Bluegrass, third choice out of the Arkansas Derby. If you maybe pick, that's what I would probably say.
I do think that, interesting enough about the Santa Anita Derby, I don't think the favorite can come out of it, but I do think if Potente I'm just throwing these 2 out there, or Cherokee Nation, say Cherokee Nation, does what he did last race again and just kills him. Well, that horse is going to have 1,000,000% hype going into the Derby. Yes. If Potente makes another leap forward like he did, and he like looks very good again, he's going to be that horse that's like got a ton of hype. So either one of those two could be like top 3 choice of the Derby. Could. Yes. I don't know that it's likely, but I think it's possible.
I think there is a world, and I don't think this is going to happen. I want to be very clear, but I think there is a world where if Cherokee Nation does that again, and he does it on the big stage, and he almost sets a track record like he did the last time. And I mean, let's face it, if he does that again, he's going to win the San Antonio Derby by probably 5 lengths. I mean,
yeah,
no offense to Potente, but if it's a true 100 buyer that horse runs, he's going to win by open links. It's Bob Baffert. I could see a world where he might be close to the favorite.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, definitely would be a top 2 or 3 choice for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, even with that being said, and in the San Antonio Derby kind of being like, yeah, I'm kind of the middle ground, still some shot because of who trains these horses for sure. So, but yeah, that's a look, guys, at what's coming up. Obviously, if you can't figure it out this weekend, if you're looking to, my kids are on spring break starting this weekend. If you're looking to go, take some time with the wife and kids, whatever, this is the weekend, because the next handful of weekends are not the weekend to do it. And, then we'll get right into it with the Derby coming up. But yeah, the final push comes starting next week, and we'll be here for you. But that is a look at the Kentucky Derby picture as of now. This is going to be such a fun last 3 weeks. It's going to be awesome, man.
Dude, I can't wait. 21st, 28th, and what is that, April 3rd or 4th, that first weekend in April. I literally can't wait. And like, even those races are like, I don't know. I'm still pretty, it's still excited. Just like there's levels of excitement.
I would say just, this year feels like, and again, it's too early to say because you don't know what's going to happen in these final preps. But just this, if there's ever been a year where it feels like, just lean in on what your gut's saying, what you like, because it just doesn't feel. Now, again, Chief Wallaby could run off the screen or something crazy. Paladin could look like a monster or whatever. But I just think that if you really like, say Sinister, who seems like he really likes Nearly. And even if Nearly loses to Chief Wallaby in the Florida Derby, like, don't back off of him. If you like Nearly that much, it just feels like that kind of year that
if he runs 5th, back off of him. But
well, yeah, if he runs terrible, but if he runs a good second or something,
right,
then you'd be like, don't back off of him just because he got beat in one race.
Right.
Yeah. If he runs like Confessional. Probably will this weekend. Yeah. Now it's time. Yeah. He's telling you to stop backing me. But all right, guys, that's all the time we have. Make sure you check us out over at the website at racingdudes.com. The new betting Bible is available now. We have one for the Virginia Derby, so it's exactly like it's going to be all season. It's brand new. No more PDFs. It's all digital on the website. All the updates happen on the website. It's freaking awesome. The picks are out. We have a Virginia betting Bible. You can get it for free if you're a premium subscriber, which I would suggest doing, because we have, like, for instance, next week, we're going to have 2. So I think what we're probably going to do is basically, other than like Dubai and stuff, if there's a Derby prep, we're going to have a betting Bible for that card. In 2 weeks or whatever, we'll have Arkansas, and we'll have Louisiana Derby, obviously. Then we'll have Arkansas, and we'll have Florida at Gulfstream. So we're going to have every one of them, but you're going to get so many betting Bibles for that premium subscription is $70 a month. So we want you guys to check it out. Give us your feedback. At the very least, try it out for a weekend, see what you think. This is a good weekend to try it because, Colonial Downs is now not a track necessarily that a lot of people play. And we've got picks and analysis for the entire card, and it's just super easy to read and to use at kind of how you like to do it, whether you want to follow the picks exactly. But we give a lot of different options and things like that, or use them at your own liking. But it's just, we'll have more kind of like, I think you're going to do a promo video next week. We want to have a promo video showing exactly how to use it all whenever the picks are out there for sale.
Yeah.
But there will be more analysis of exactly what that looks like. There is an article on the website at Racing Dudes as well that shows some screenshots, but super excited about it. So make sure you go check out the betting Bible for this weekend or the next several weekends as we get closer to the Kentucky Derby. We're on Twitter at Racing_Dudes, Instagram and Facebook. Find all episodes of Blinkers Off by visiting the podcast page. Apple Podcasts, where you like to listen to, we are there. Thanks for listening and watching on YouTube. We appreciate if you hit that like, subscribe, and notification button. Helps us and helps the channel grow. Any final thought? Oh, it's now, is it still the Magic Mike show, or is it like the Halterman Magic show?
I don't know. I know this week we're not having one because Mike is at NHC, so we're
Just
out.
when it came back, got me all excited.
Well, it'll be, here's what I would say. From starting next week through Saratoga, let's say, I doubt there's an episode that's missed. That's what I would say. We had had this discussion, and then he texted me yesterday and he goes, I know we talked about how we're not going to skip any more weeks, but he's like, I really can't do it. And I was like, okay, I get it. You're at the NHC, and I don't want you to step away from whatever you're doing in Las Vegas to do the Magic Mike show. So no Magic Mike show. We will be back next week, though. I would imagine Louisiana Derby card, and then Florida Derby card, Bluegrass card, Keeneland all the way up to the Kentucky Derby, and then on from there. So yes, it is back, just not this week.
I kind of thought he would make it whatever happen just so he got on to talk about the Puma, because the horse that he picked last week. I figured you'd whatever you needed to do to get on there to talk about it. But because now next week gets on there, it's old news. He
was very tempered about the Puma. He has him as like a top, 8 type of horse like we do. His main concern, he said, like visually, it just wasn't what we saw in the Fountain of Youth, which was true. He brought up a good point on the Puma. The main concern of him is like, I don't think he's athletic enough, meaning he seems like a horse they're going to have to just keep out of trouble, and that may mean a wide trip. So he was tempered with the Puma.
But he still cashed on him the other day.
Yes, he did.
And he was like, what was he, like 8-1, something like that?
I think he was. Yeah, I think he went off at 8-1.
So did, or maybe I'm thinking of Potente. Potente was 8-1.
He was 8-1. Yeah, I think they were both around 7 or 8-1. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, that's insane.
Yep.
All right. That's going to do it for us. Again, this is a great weekend to, obviously follow along, bet, do the Virginia betting Bible, Virginia Derby betting Bible, but, also catch your breath because it's going to be insane, and we're going to learn a lot over the coming weeks. All right. Appreciate everybody listening. Till next time, I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Blinkers Off. Join our horse racing community at racingdudes.com and follow us on Twitter at racing_dudes. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.